Welcome to Democracy-ish. I am Danielle Moodie.
And I'm Wajahat.
And we're live and in person together for the first time.
If you're a person of color or a woman or anyone who's marginalized and you have chosen and you have to choose to be the protagonist of the American narrative against all forces that are trying their best to put you down, by being the hero of this narrative, you automatically become the villain in other people's narrative.
Yep.
And that's the reality. And someone, Q, I'm going to Q, our mighty producer who does everything right before the show. He said, sorry, Q, I'm gonna put you in blast here. He's like, if we're pissing off the right people, that's good. He goes, I want to piss off the right people. And that's kind of how you know we're doing the right work at this moment. Yeah. That if we're pissing off the right people and we're the villains in their eyes, because I was mentioning, like, you know, I was on Fox. Fox did an entire piece. I was telling you right before the show. They did an entire piece on me and an amazing publicity because I went on Joy Reid's show and was like, you know, she asked me about Barry Weiss's comment about, I'm over COVID. And we ranted about it for like 4 minutes and then we connected the dots about selfishness and cruelty. And then I talked about, you know, this is selfishness and part and parcel of America. Yes. And I said, we're a generous country, but we're also a selfish country. And I talked about that selfishness extends back to white supremacy. I connected the dots. And Fox News lost its mind. And how dare he say this? And they gave me like this amazing coverage. Thank you, Fox. And they promoted the Joy Reid clip. And the type of emails that I got that I mentioned earlier in the show, I'm like, wow, by mentioning certain truths, I am the villain. Like, I'm the bad guy. And you were talking earlier about Nicole. Like, they hate Nicole. And Nicole Hannah-Jones. And you were mentioning before the show, we were talking about this, how we worry about Nicole,
them all the time.
Alexandria,
the squad. I worry about anyone who has a platform, whatever that size is, and the boldness to tell the truth. Right? Because the truth will cost you. It has cost me jobs, right? It will cost you. But for me, it's like, well, what are we doing then, right? Like, because if it is just about collecting a check, then there are much easier ways,
better ways
make money to go about that.
You could be the female Larry Elder. I could be Dinesh D'Souza part 2.
But it's like, if you're in this because you believe in democracy, even if you haven't seen the democracy that you want to see, but you believe in the ability of some of us at some point to get there, right? Then you have to tell the truth. Fox News, I mean, the fact that they did an entire segment shows just how much what you said hit at the core of what they want people to be denied. You brought up Youngkin, right? I'll go now to Ron DeSantis in Florida, and what Ron DeSantis has now decided to go a step further than their war on critical race theory, which, once again, folks, good people at home, is not taught in K through 12. It is not even taught at the college level. We've said this many times over. It is taught in law school. It is taught like
as an elective that I took.
It is in certain grad programs. Ron DeSantis has decided that, not only do we not want to talk about race, not only are we going to pass legislation that will allow white people to never feel, quote, discomfort, because that's actually written in the legislation, but now don't say gay.
Oh, that's a new one.
And if you teach about LGBTQ folks in history, if you have LGBTQ kids in your class, if their parents are queer, it is the do not say gay legislation that allows parental control, that favorite new phrase, for you to be able to sue the school and the teacher.
And Abbott in Texas are taking another step forward. It's like Abbott and DeSantis right now, and you guys should pay attention to this. I have a piece coming out. I'm going to write it this week. They are using, it's like white supremacy on steroids with these bills, open carry, voter suppression, the bans on masks and vaccines, disinformation, and also the attack on CRTs. And they're trying to lead the way for the nation. And they're trying to ride it to the White House. So it's DeSantis versus Abbott. So DeSantis is doing this in Florida. Abbott's doing this in Texas. They're banning books. Literally, they're removing books from the San Antonio library, and they're banning books by people of color. And I said this before, these parents, in order to avoid discomfort, are more comfortable with their kids getting COVID than a book written by a black person talking about racism.
Correct.
And again, it shows you that if you step up and you talk and you simply live, if you simply live your life, you are the villain. Look who they're going against. Not just black and brown folks, gay folks. It'll be Asian folks. It'll be workers. It's like the back in the day, like socialists, communists, anyone who disrupts them.
It's the Martin Niemöller poem that everyone uses, everyone knows, and this is their tactic, and it has always been. And you know,
first they came for
but before, right? You said, okay, well, they would rather their kids get COVID than be taught a lesson, read a book by a person of color. These are people that would have rather drain a community pool than allow the integration of community centers, of public pools. They would rather, right, their kids suffer. Do not swim, don't do this, because we don't want you in the same waters as black people. So I want everyone to understand that the euphemisms that they are using, quote unquote, parental control, is exactly what they did during the 1950s, the fight against integrating our school system. It was, I'm pulling all white people, I'm pulling my kids out of the public education system. And then what does that allow government to do? Lessen the amount of money and resources that go in. And who can't move their kids around? Poor people and black and brown people, right? So it's like we always act shocked every time, every go around the merry-go-round, and I'm like, they've been doing this.
You know, to bring it full circle, and it's pretty fascinating and make a microcosm, it all started with the schools post-1954, the culture wars when it came to desegregation. It started with the schools. It's still in the schools. The test for whiteness has always been school integration. Just look at Virginia. A lot of white parents, when push came to shove, they read the Ta-Nehisi Coates book. They read Michelle Obama. They listened to the Beyonce, right? They kiss an Asian girl. They eat Indian food with their hands. But when it comes to integrating schools, too far. And the microcosm is the following. If I have to expand America or American to include the black and the brown and Asians, well, I'm just going to burn America down.
Yes. And that, I mean, so... that is literally where we are. And when we say these things out loud, people either tell us that we're being hyperbolic, right? Chicken Little, like, Danielle, even my friends, the world is not going to come to an end. Democracy is not going to end. And I'm like, give me an example to prove the contrary, right? Like, tell me how you see that things are going well.
And what's their retort?
And it's just like, well, it's never happened before. So a black man was never president before, right? Like a lot of things. We never had school shootings until we did, right? Like,
because you and I grew up at a time. This is so wild. Real quick, you and I grew up at a time where there was just fire drills.
Right.
Like now they do shooting drills
every day.
Wild.
Like active shooting drills.
And this is normal now.
This is normal because we don't want to create policies that would allow for gun control. So again, just think about the ways in which Americans use, and white Americans in particular, use children as their football, right? Because we love the children so long as they're in the womb. Right? They come out of the womb. We want to fit them with bulletproof backpacks give their teachers guns, right? Do gun active drills on a regular basis. Do all of these things except limit AR-15s from being a part of your arsenal. Except stop using those heavy magazines that allow you to pop off 100 bullets in 60 seconds.
Well, and also we're pro-life and pro-kids because we're fine with them living, but don't give them masks and vaccines in schools. And also don't get paid parental leave and don't give free pre-K and also kill child tax credit, which lifted millions of people out of poverty. But at the same time, give $800 billion. I have to share this. As we cut the child tax credit during a pandemic, which lifted millions of families, kids out of poverty, and we cut it because we can't waste money. Both Democrats and Republicans gave $800 billion to the military-industrial complex. We've mentioned this before, but I always feel like that's America. Love the kids, but F them kids.
Yeah.
And also support the greatest generation that fought for this democracy. But if it comes to my inconvenience, by grandma and grandpa, you got to die for herd immunity.
Right.
The selfishness of America and Americans.
And I think that to me, it's like, what does it mean to be an American right now? It means to lack empathy and embody selfishness. Right?
For some, though. See, this
for
is
for some, but the dichotomy of it is it's just so stark.
But I feel like it has to be named, right? Going back to narrative, right? You said bold America, generous and free, and anyone can come here, but no one talks about the other part. And I feel this is where, when it comes to the question of Americans, we're the other part. We're the other part. We're the underbelly that no one wants to talk about. The oppression, the pain, the blacks, the browns, the Asians, the hard work, the fact that model minority is just a myth, the refugees, the people who live the American nightmare yet still dream of the American dream, the people who endure the nightmare so the dream can be achieved by others. Right? You need both. And I feel like the fact now that this country is expanding its scope, it's expanding its vision of, oh, the darkies were also here. Oh, there was also racism. Oh, there was a Chinese Exclusion Act. Oh, there's like single moms who struggle and they work 2 jobs. They're not lazy. They work harder than anyone else. Oh, there's police brutality. This too is America. And with that, the test for the rest of us is, how do you love a country that doesn't love you back? Well, first of all, you have to love yourself. You have to love your own people. You have to love your community. And you have to find a way to find joy in a country that you love that hates you. That's the test.
That is the test.